Hey art fans, Butch Hartman here. How's it going? Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you guys want me to do you a drawing, I'm doing commissions now, so click the link down below. Also, get my new book, Mad Hustle, How to Pitch and Sell Shows in Hollywood. I've got over 30 years of experience crammed into this book about how you can get your amazing idea ready to take it out to a studio, pitch it, and hopefully sell it and make a living doing what you love. And speaking of Mad Hustle, I've got a very special segment of my show that I do called TOONA. And this episode of TOONA is a very special Mad Hustle edition. Why is that? Because the guys who taught me all about Mad Hustle are on the show today. Albie Hecht and Fred Seibert. Who are Albie Hecht and Fred Seibert? Albie Hecht, he was running Nickelodeon when I first got there in the late 90s. Albie Hecht made all of the programming decisions for Nickelodeon. If Albie didn't want to make a show, it didn't get made. But if he wanted to make a show, it would get made. And guess what? He wanted to make a show called The Fairly Odd Parents when I pitched it over there, and he loved it, and so we got to make it into a series. We got to make Danny Phantom. Albie said yes to Danny Phantom as well. So without Albie, I really wouldn't be where I am today. And Albie, I owe him everything. I love this guy so much. He's a dear friend. I've known him for, gosh, almost 25 years now, and we've done so many things together. We're working over at a company now called Pocket Watch, which is doing some incredible stuff. We worked on Hobby Kids Adventures over there. Check that stuff out. Ryan's Mystery Playdate on Nickelodeon. He's working on that. Albie is just a force to be reckoned with, and I love him dearly. He's on the show today, and he's going to be telling us about what people look for, what people like him, what they look for when someone's pitching a show. So very valuable information Albie's going to give. And also my dear friend Fred Seibert. I met Fred Seibert before I met Albie Hecht at Hanna-Barbera back in the early 90s. Fred came in to run Hanna-Barbera when it was just becoming Cartoon Network. Fred launched a brand new series called What a Cartoon, where you could actually pitch your own short cartoon and make it into an actual animated film. And Fred gave us all chances back then. Craig McCracken, Gendy Tartakovsky, myself, a bunch of other people got the chance to get their shows made on the What a Cartoon show. I pitched several back then, Fish and Chip, Hillbilly Blue, Gramps, Shake and Flick, and had a great time, learned a lot, that's for sure. But I say all that to say this. Fred means the world to me. He's a dear friend. He took chances on me when nobody else would. He gave me chance after chance after chance. And because of the belief Fred had in me, I was able to just build up my knowledge of animation, learn how to make animated films for television, and I owe Fred everything. And it's because of Fred, I actually pitched The Fairly Odd Parents to the Oh Yeah cartoon show that he ended up making over at Nickelodeon. So without Fred and Albie, I really wouldn't be here. So I owe these guys the world. They're going to tell us all about what it takes to have Mad Hustle and what people look for when it comes to pitching a show and how you can sell a show too. So without further ado, let's get into our interview right now with Albie Hecht and Fred Seibert. All right, well, I have two of my best pals in the universe. I'm not going to say which one's my best pal because you guys will get mad. Let's say you're equal best friends. The guy in the white shirt is Fred Seibert. How you doing, Fred?
I'm doing great, Butch. I'm glad to be here with you and Albie.
Thank you. And the guy below me needs no introduction because Fred just introduced him. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Albie Hecht. Albie, how are you, my friend?
I am excellent now that I'm talking to you, Mr. Butch Hartman, king of cartoons.
Oh my goodness. No, guys, I'm just saying this literally, and I mean this. I want everyone to know this. I would be nowhere without the two of you. So I want to thank you both for the huge part and role and share you've had in my career. And I think, honestly, I've been harping on this for so long. Everybody needs relationships in their career. And because of my relationship with you guys, I was able to achieve the things I've achieved. So thank you both. I can't thank you enough.
I'm going to turn that around on you, Butch, because I gave a speech recently where I pointed out that the guy who founded Atlantic Records, Ahmet Ertegun, used to say the way you succeed in the business is you walk around until you bump into a genius. And I was talking to a lot of creative people, and I said, you know, people like Albie and I, we go to sleep every night frightened to death that we won't meet you, right? Because the truth is we don't have careers until we know you. Wow. So this is it's like an ecosystem where we all need each other in order to get by.
And I, in addition to Fred connecting us in such a magical way, learned so much from you about cartoons as opposed to animation. So many people get into animation, but Butch Hartman does cartoons in all of the best senses, and I learned that from you.
Well, that's so sweet. Guys, listen, I mean, I really, there's really no words to thank you both. And I just.
Well, you could try for.
I will.
Keep going, right?
Yeah, so I could use the reinforcement nowadays.
No, but what blows my mind is, Fred, before I met Albie, I knew you. I've known you, Fred, since 1991. And you were like,
unbelievable.
You were like 60 back then. So I know you're older now, but, well, but you came in that first day. I was at Hanna-Barbera, I was an artist there doing my thing. And you came in when Ted Turner bought Hanna-Barbera and turned it into Cartoon Network. And I think were you there that day in the park?
Correct.
Yeah. And it was amazing.
I was. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, just to stand there seeing one giant company turn into another giant company. And then because of you, I was able to meet Albie when I made Fairly Odd Parents as a pilot. You bought the pilot for Oh Yeah. And then I made a couple shorts. And then a guy named Albie Heck, who was running Nickelodeon at the time, saw it and thought it might be a good idea to give it a shot. So that's how we met. It's amazing. And I've got this book here. It's called Mad Hustle. It's backwards now, but it's Mad Hustle. How to Pitch and Sell Shows in Hollywood. And
That's an autobiography.
Exactly. But someone once told me.
I thought it said the Mad Hustler. That would be good too.
Close,
so
yes.
Yeah.
Well, if you ask certain people, they think that is true. But,
exactly.
No, but Mad Hustle refers to a voice actor once told me that I had mad hustle. Like, man, you keep going. You're always pushing. You're always doing this.
Yeah.
And would you guys agree that that's what it takes to make it in the entertainment business is a mad hustle?
I absolutely would. I learned it on a blind date with my wife, where I was telling her that I really was in love with talent, and I thought the talent needed better, like more champions. Albie and I are both champions with talent. But she said, well, yeah, that's fine. Talent's great, but people have to want to succeed. And it was actually what I thought of as the third leg of the stool, right? There's talent. There's the skill that you have to put together with talent, particularly in animation. You have to be as skilled as you are and the people you have worked with. But the third leg of that stool to make it stand up and make it work as a stool was ambition, mad hustle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an Energizer Bunny. You just got to keep going. There's so much rejection. There's so much personal and professional rejection that you just got to keep going. And the hustle is that, which is push past all that rejection, keep that confidence going, and put out the energy that you need, because that's what people want to see. I mean, when you guys came in, always when you come in to pitch, Butch, there's an energy, not just of creativity and confidence, but authenticity of your idea. That's all, to me, part of that hustle. Because if you don't have those elements going at the same time as the energy, that's what fuels it. That's the force.
Right.
Well, Butch, also, while you and I have known each other for 30 years, Albie and I met 50 years ago when we were in college. And we both came from small family businesses that had nothing to do with what we're doing for a living or what you're doing for a living. And like you, we knew what we wanted, but we had no idea how to get there.
Right.
And Albie and I would have a meeting or a lunch or a drink, over the years. And you could sort of smell it on both of us that we wanted something and we didn't know how to get it. And we just kept, making our way. We would go 2 steps forward, 3 steps backwards. And I think I said to Albie in a conversation we had recently, it's not a mistake that here we are still doing it successfully and having a great time at it, because we knew from the beginning, we didn't necessarily knew that we were going to be in animation like you did. We didn't have the skill set that you did. We didn't have the talents that you have, but we knew we wanted to be into this business and we wanted to succeed at it. And while I never thought of myself as ambitious until one day I was on a panel with you and you mentioned that we were both ambitious.
Right.
I realized in retrospect that nothing was going to stop us from getting what we wanted. And that's part of that puzzle.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, because I always say this about artists, because I am one, and everybody is an artist in their own way. Most artists that do what I do, they draw. They always put their headphones in, and they want to sit at their desk and draw all day, which is fine. It's fine and dandy. But then people come up to me all the time saying, "How do I get where you are? How do I achieve what you've achieved?" I say, take the headphones out and lift your head up and start meeting people. And that's where a lot of people get afraid. They have a lot of fear about interacting, or someone's not going to like me. There's a lot of social things that go along with it where maybe they're not a people person. And so, but you have to have relationships in order to achieve something. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah. You have to go to lunch. That's what Fred taught me.
Right.
When we became partners, he said, I said, well, we're going to start this production company, part of Fred Allen. Fred Allen will be the creative agency. And he said, I said, well, okay, great. He goes, the thing that's most important is that you have a big T&E account. I'm like, what? I was like, are we partners? Are we supposed to be cheap? He goes, no, you have to go to lunch. You have to go to dinner. You have to go out. He said, because when I met Dick Clark, who we both loved at the time, you can pick up the story from here, or he taught me about going to lunch, right?
Exactly. The deal is, I didn't know how to be a producer, but I knew I wanted to be a producer.
Right.
And we were sitting down and I said, how do I be a producer? And he said, well, you have to keep going to lunch with the people who can buy something from you. I said, oh, great. So we go to lunch and I tell them about our ideas. He goes, oh, no, never tell them about your ideas. I said, I'm confused. What do I do at lunch? He said, talk about anything else. Talk about their bosses, their jobs, their hobbies, their wives, their kids. Mm-hmm. I said, okay, at the end of lunch, I tell them about our ideas. No, don't do that. A word. Don't never talk about your ideas.
Hey, Butch, this is the gold. This is the gold for your audience, right? I'm just telling you. Okay, this is the gold. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to.
So I said, okay, what happens after the lunch? He goes, oh, you go to lunch with them again. And I said, why will they go to lunch with me? They don't know. Because Fred, that's what they do. They go to lunch with people who have ideas.
That's all they do. I know, it's true.
I said, so what happens? He goes, you just keep having that lunch. And one day they're going to turn to you and say, I have a problem at 8:00. Maybe you can fix it. Mm-hmm. And here's what I realized. One was that person is essentially writing you a check. And they have to go to their boss, who has to go to their boss, who has to go to their boss, and said it was worth giving the check to Butch or to Albie. Well, how do you know it's worth? Well, look, I know them. They're okay.
Yeah.
So fast forward, I did tell this to Albie. And Albie and my partner, Alan Goodman, were close friends, which is how we all got to know each other. And they took a recon mission from New York to Los Angeles to CBS one day to pitch a special to the woman at CBS. And the woman didn't give them the special. And at the end of the meeting, she said, there's somebody down the hall that wants to see you guys. And Albie and Alan looked at each other and go, we don't know anybody here except you. So they went down to the office and they stuck their head in. He said, hi, I'm Kevin. Are you guys partners with Fred? He said, yeah. He goes, sit down. I got a problem at 11:30. Maybe you people can fix it. And we got our first and only broadcast network pilot.
Wow.
It turned out that I had been trying to hire this guy for 10 years. We barely knew each other, but every time I had an open job, I called him. And he remembered. And he charted what we had all been doing and realized that maybe, in fact, we could help him solve his problem.
Yeah.
It was the equivalent of going to lunch with somebody for years.
No, that's how I got Fairly Odd Parents sold. You and I were working at Hanna-Barbera together. You left. And then you call, I'll never forget, I say this story in the book. I detail it very, very deeply. I go, you called me and said, hey, I got one slot left. Oh, you said this, can you come and do a short on, oh yeah. And I go, no, I got to work on Johnny Bravo. I'm very loyal to Van Partible, the creator. And so
and my contract, you were very loyal your contract.
I had a contract. Right? That's true. I forgot I did. Yeah, right. But I go, look, man, I'm sorry. And then about 6 months later, they laid us all off. We were done. And I called you. I go, Fred, do you have any slots left on that Oh Yeah show? You go, yeah, I got one slot left. Can you see me Friday? This was like Tuesday. I said, sure, I got a great show. Hung up. I had nothing. I had no show. I'm like, oh my God. So I came up with Fairly Odd Parents in like 15 minutes. And I had to pitch it to Hanna-Barbera first because I was under contract. They said no. I had like 5 drawings and a mini storyboard when I walked in on Friday for you. And you were like, yep. I got the last slot in the Oh Yeah first season.
Right. Well, look, you know,
Thank
go
God.
back to your
Well, it's because I knew
back to
you.
your to your mad hustle. I tell everybody that while James Brown might have been the hardest working man in the music business, that Butch Hartman is the hardest working man in the cartoon business.
Wow.
And part of that was the fact that before the Fairly Odd Parents, we had made 4 shorts, I believe, together.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them was really not the best.
Oh, I know.
And another one was a little better, but it really was not the best.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked you about it, and I said, you know, Butch, you are the greatest pitch man I've ever seen for any of the thousands of pitches that we have gotten. How come the cartoon doesn't live up to it? He goes, well, you know, somebody else did the comedy timing on this, the animation timing.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't understand like what I wanted to do. I said, oh, okay. So what are you going to do? He goes, I'm going to teach myself timing. And you did. And the next cartoon was better. And the next cartoon was better. And the next cartoon was the Fairly Odd Parents.
Mm-hmm.
And I say this all the time, that not only do you work hard, but you analyze when something isn't working, how are you going to make it better? Mm. And that is a rare, rare commodity. Like in the business, most people just think they're good, and whatever it is they do is good. And if we don't say yes, that we're idiots because they're geniuses.
I will say though that, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go.
No, I will say the further part of going to lunch, it's really actually a big metaphor, because part of going to lunch is understanding their business and what they want, right? And that's sort of the recon of the whole thing. And when you don't do the accurate recon, you can really miss. So I think our partnership almost ended from the first pitch we ever did together, which, believe it or not, was Kids' Choice Awards. So
oh my gosh,
Fred and Alan had worked their way in, you know, going to lunch with Jerry Laybourne and Jeffrey Darby and all the people at Nickelodeon. And they said, finally, you know, I have a problem. I need a special, and we don't know what to do. We're calling it something Kids' Choice. So big ballot. They had done this promotion, which we had done as an ad agency, more or less as shorts, which is a promotion about kids' favorites. And they were like, well, we want to turn this into a show. We should do that. So Fred's like, oh, Albie's the show guy. He's going to go in with Alan and help him and pitch the show. So we go in, it's the whole big room, and I go into my song and dance. And you know, I do like you, I'm very energetic in the pitch, right? And I'm like, so understand, this is 1988, right? Nickelodeon's never done a live show, never done a special.
Wow.
Never done anything really big in television beyond game shows. So I go and I go, look, we're going to be at Madison Square Garden. We're going to have 20,000 screaming kids. We have 3 rings. There's a different act in each ring. We give out awards in each ring. It's live for 2 hours from New York City.
Oh my God.
So there's a big hush in the room. I'm like, a hush. Okay, I got it. And Jerry looks at.
He didn't notice that the blood,
the sweat
was dropping out of Jerry's face as we went along.
Take a beat, looks at Fred, and she says, I think I'm going to throw up. And Fred looks at me and says, Albie, would you wait outside for a minute? I'm like, well, I've known these guys since college, but this is the end. I mean, I thought it was a brilliant idea, but guess not. So he did salvage it, though, because he's brilliant, and we got the show, and we didn't do it live, of course, and we didn't do it in front of an audience. We did it in front of 100 people at Universal Studios instead. But
I'm ready to buy it right now. That was awesome.
Fred salvaged the idea. And by the way, what is it? 15 years later, 10 the show at Pauly Pavilion from 15,000 screaming kids. And, you know, we got there, but it took them a while. But
yeah,
that was
my
first big pitch, and they said, I'm going to throw up. So don't get discouraged, Butch. That's mad hustle right there.
Oh, it is.
I will just say, to follow up, the day I walked into Pauly and there were those tens of thousands of kids screaming at the top of their lungs, their excitement for being there.
I went every year.
At Albie. I looked at Albie and I said, you did it, bud.
Yeah.
And, you know, again, as I say to the young people all the time, we have all fallen on our face into a giant mud puddle often. Often, more than we ever want to tell people.
Mud puddle's a nice way to put it. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, we are so stupid that we get up out of the mud puddle, we like sort of brush off, and then we keep going.
Yeah.
And why? Because we're too dumb to know not to keep going. You know, and I always put myself at the front of that dumb line, because I just kind of have learned over the years, it's never going to go your way most of the time. We are in a business of failure. We all fail more than we succeed. But we know that every failure is one step closer to the great success.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, our collective success on the Fairly Odd Parents is, you know, one of the greatest achievements in the history of the animation business.
That's great. That leads me to my list of talk show host questions here for you guys. And we'll start. Either one of you can answer. How about this? I'll go. Fred just spoke, and amazing Fred. And let me go to Albie. So let me think. What do you guys look for when you're meeting somebody, and what do you look for when you're going to buy something from somebody? And Albie, you can start. Like, what's a sign? Like, okay, I can work with this person.
Passion, authenticity, passion, like that this is their story, like they telling me their story. How are they connected to this story or these characters? That's the number one thing. If I feel like they are connected to these stories and characters, I'm into it. I'm trying to, then from there, and then it's, can I work with this person? And like Fred said, investing in talent. The actual idea, I don't really care about. I mean, the high concept I might care about if it fits, you know, if I'm a programmer, if it's a time slot or something I'm looking for. The high concept I probably care about because I love marketing. I like as you know, one-line pitch, log lines, elevated pitches. I mean, that helps me. But as far as what the actual story is or the script's going to be, or if I think this person's got it, I know they're going to get me there.
Got it. And Fred, how about you?
I will agree with everything Albie said, with the exception of one thing, which is I've learned to tell everyone I think their ideas are fabulous because the idea itself has never been all that interesting to me. From that very first meeting I had with Dick Clark, it was about the execution. So I tell people all the time, for instance, about the Fairly Odd Parents, if you strip it down to its essence of an idea, it's been done 1,000 times. A boy gets 3 wishes. There was nothing inherently interesting about that idea. What was interesting is, to what Albie said, you inhabited those characters. Every one of those characters, the innocent kid, the fairy godparents who were crazy, the annoying babysitter, you know, the parents, you were each of those characters. And just like we do, as you found characters, and ultimately what we're looking for is characters that we can be in love with, because then the stories don't matter, because you're already in love with those characters and you will follow them. You know, you'll follow Gilligan's Island not only to the middle of the Pacific Ocean, but in the Hanna-Barbera version, up into outer space onto some planet.
Exactly.
You will follow those great characters anywhere. And if that creator is in fact that great character, I'm ready to follow.
Awesome. Yeah, so I love what you guys said. I mean, what you guys both said is it's really not the idea so much as the person. I tell people this all the time. They're really buying you. Like, we need to know that we can spend money and time on you, and you'll deliver a product we can all be happy with. You know,
so you know, I found out over the years that I'm slightly dyslexic, and I found that out by the fact that when people would give me scripts to read, I never wanted to read them. I would insist that they pitch them live to me. And it started actually in the Nickelodeon promo department, where everyone would walk in with their scripts and they'd hand out the copies to everybody. I go, yeah, well, just tell me about it. Like, you know, perform it. And it is, in fact, in that performance that I started falling in love with your work, because you did embody those things that you were pitching. Not just the characters, but the ideas. Like, every one of those things was something that you were in the middle of, and you lived it. And honestly, if you didn't live it, it wasn't going to work.
Right.
Yeah, and I think it also, to your point, Fred, the people who do that, there are writers, right? And there are animation directors, and they could give me Bibles, but there are storytellers. The people that actually tell me a story, those are the ones that can do great work.
My first grade lesson came from the head of NBC when somebody said, so what kind of ideas are you looking for? He goes, well, I don't really care about the ideas. Just tell me who's going to write it. Tell me who's going to star in it.
Wow.
And when I got to animation, someone explained to me that the person in charge was, in fact, the writer and the star. You are the star of your cartoons, right? In the same way that you are writing those cartoons.
Right.
And it made me even more certain that that person was the key to success or failure.
But I will say also, back to my idea about knowing things, it does matter to me if someone knows my business when they come in.
Right.
And if they don't, it's okay for them to ask. I'd rather they ask as opposed to pitch me, come in and say, hey, what are you looking for? But they should know something about, right now I'm at Pocket Watch. They should come in knowing something about Pocket Watch. Right. They should come in looking at Nickelodeon or Spike TV or Shine Global, any of the companies I was affiliated with or are affiliated with, or CNN. They should really know why they're there, as opposed to like, oh, I got a meeting with this guy.
Right, exactly.
I'm sure you do too, Albie, and probably you do too, Butch. I get about 10 emails a week from people saying, here's my script, please read it. and you go, I only do animation. And I went, oh, they found my name on some list somewhere.
Right.
And to Albie's point, they didn't bother to figure out. And by the way, at that point, even if it's an animated script, I have no interest, because they basically sent it out to a blind list.
Right.
They didn't know who they were sending it to. And it just, it's just sort of a waste of energy and a waste of time.
Yeah. I got a whole chapter in here about preparation and homework. I go like, look, if you have a martial arts show, the late 2000s wasn't a great time to go to Nickelodeon when they had Super Ninjas, Kung Fu Panda, Ninja Turtles, and Avatar. I'm like, don't walk in with a martial arts show, because you're probably not going to sell it. I mean, you might, but it's better to do your homework and be prepared and walk in, not knowing what's going on and then wasting the meeting.
Yeah.
Huge. How about this? What's the worst attitude to have, and what's the best?
Well, but you actually prepared for this, like a list of questions.
I wrote things down.
I know.
He did his homework.
He
did his homework.
His homework and preparation. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I say, what is one of the worst attitudes a person can have when they walk in? Do you guys have any examples of a bad attitude, or like a bad example of what not to do in a meeting?
I will tell you the honest truth. Every time I want to kick somebody out of my office because I can't stand them, they end up succeeding like crazy. So I have not found that there is one thing or the other that makes them right or wrong.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I don't really think, I think I will say the lack of preparation, not to reiterate it, but someone who doesn't respect me enough to come in and know what I do or what I'm doing, I think that creates a bad vibe for me right away. But other than that, diverse styles, I mean, that's what it's all about.
No, exactly.
I don't think, from anybody that knew Steve Hillenburg, right? You know, you would never have thought that SpongeBob came out of him. If you just talked to him personally or just, you know, but yet when he pitched a storyboard to Fred's point of view, he wouldn't send me one script for that pilot. Not even a board. He said, come into the room and we will pitch it to you. It was one of the most exciting moments. But he was a very quiet guy. But when he was there at the board, taking me through the storyboards with his team acting stuff out, and I mean, it was magic, right? So everybody has a diverse style. You can't tell it from that moment if you were just sitting there. If I started out with an interview of Steve Hillenburg, like, how are you, where are you from, blah, 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 monosyllabic, you know, kind of staring at me like, okay, you're a suit. I know you're head of the studio, but but when he came alive with that pitch, that style, you know, so you have to be prepared for all styles.
Yeah. Do you guys find, like, what's the difference between the industry now than it was like 20 years ago? What's one of the major differences you could point out?
I think every one of us who's been around for a while thinks that now there are less chances taken than there used to be. And I can make the argument on either side that there are a lot of chances that are being taken now or none. But I think that when Albie and I first started getting involved in animation, there was a sense of what has happened in the last 20 years isn't working anymore. What are we going to do that's going to make us stand out? And I think the truth of the matter is that businesses that have succeeded so often that they're willing to take a flyer, those are great. And businesses that are on the verge of failure, so they go, what the heck, we might as well try something new, they're great too. And I think we have lived through both of those moments over the years. You know, right now the streaming networks are taking a lot of chances on some things, and, you know, depending on how you look at it, you might think they're taking no chances. Right? But we have a show on Netflix called Castlevania, which is so far out of, you know, Albie always used to say to me, you know, in animation, funny is money. And so I live that, you know, pretty well. And you're a great example of that. Our show Castlevania, there is nothing funny about it. It's a horror, R-rated adult series with lots of violence, lots of war, but just like the Fairly Odd Parents or SpongeBob, great characters who embody great stories. Yeah. That's really what it comes down to, no matter what style you are looking at. And by the way, it took us 10 years to find someone who was willing to do Castlevania. We had a script for 10 years before we got a taker. Now that's another thing. Yeah, well, it's hustle, it's persistence, it's patience. If you think it's great, you know, if you think you have something special, sometimes it's good to put it in the drawer for a while and then pull it out again when you think there's an opportunity. I have a chapter here called Passion, Patience, and Persistence. Right here, baby. It's totally I think I read that. No, it's totally true. I mean, I know things have changed because, like, you know, before in the TV business, it used to be about ratings. What's your rating? What's your rating? What's your rating? But there's real, I don't know if the ratings are the same as they used to be. To me, it seems there's more opportunities to sell stuff now because there's so many more slots to fill. Wouldn't you guys agree with that? Absolutely. I mean, this year there are going to be 500 scripted series being made. Wow. That's a record. Crazy. And you guys?
Yeah, but I mean, the same set of buyers. It's like, you know, here's the new boss, same as the old boss. I mean, the same suits out there like me used to be. I like to think I wasn't quite like that, but, you know, same people, like Fred just said, who's the writer, who's this? Well, look at the piece of animation. It's fantastic. Well, what have they done? It's like, come on, like, the world has changed. You know, you're 6 years old, you can make animated cartoons right now. CG is at everybody's fingertips. Unreal Engine is going to blow up the whole business, right? So it's been just some ways this whole move to more venues, more places to sell it is great. There are. And by the way, you can self-start, you self-fund, you can go on YouTube. You have no friction at all going on YouTube to your audience if you can find an audience. That's one way so people can self-distribute. That's a big change, and more things are happening, and more different styles of animation are out there that are possible, as you know, Butch, and you've seen, and that's fantastic too. But I think the buyers, they take some chances. I mean, they have Castlevania is great, Netflix is great, but they have no ratings, so they don't tell us anything about views or whatever they have, like YouTube. It's not transparent. So who knows what their criteria for shows are, what they do. They don't have that. That's actually good for them. They can do shows that they think are smart or critically acclaimed or not. But
I know, and
they don't have to use funny as money because they don't need the ratings.
Exactly. Like the hustle.
But one of the things.
Go ahead.
One of the things that has really changed, really changed, is up until the 1980s, the average home in America had 2 channels of television. YouTube alone has more than 30 million channels. And the truth is that being a filmmaker is more akin to having your own little garage rock and roll band than ever before. Is in fact, you can find an audience. You can develop on your own without in order for you to get started, Butch, you had to go into Hanna-Barbera. Yeah. You had to go into a large infrastructure that could support the stuff that you did while you were trying to figure out your own stuff.
Right.
Now for $25, somebody can get a piece of software and they truly can make an animated film in their room, and they can develop those skills, storytelling skills, drawing skills, animation skills, editing skills, storytelling, filmmaking skills. I have a young guy, he's currently working in production at Netflix. He's about a year or 2 out of college. But I met him when he was 14. He grew up on Long Island, had his own animation channel, and he brought it into my office. And we put him in our network. There wasn't a high threshold to get into our network. If you're making a channel, if you're making videos, we'll do it. If he made a video once every 6 months,
Fred didn't have very high standards, but you know that.
But I think that this notion that you can develop your own skills your own way, that you can put it out there and see what people think of it. The truth is that by putting something out yourself, when Albie would buy a show from me and put it in a time slot that I didn't like and it didn't do well, I could blame him. It's in the wrong time slot. They didn't promote it right. They don't understand. They maybe changed the color of the shoes from green to purple. Like whatever excuse I could come up with for why something didn't work, it was really easy to blame the network. The great thing about the world that people are coming up in now is they got nobody blame but the person in the mirror. And if they put something out there and the world doesn't respond to it, they have to look in that mirror and decide, what am I going to do about that fact? That is such a change from the way the world used to be, that there's more opportunity for more filmmakers to do more great things than ever before. Just the same way Albie and I came up together in the music business. And we had bands, and we would play in podunk. We would play in garages. We would play for nobody. We would play for everybody. And some of the people made it. Some of the people didn't.
And then we get thrown in the same mud puddle as before.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly. But that is the opportunity now that is different than ever before in history for an animated filmmaker.
Do you guys, I was going to say, and then we'll wrap up. The hustle part comes from, yes, you tried. Even if we sell a show, you get a show on the air, show ends. It goes away. It doesn't last forever. unless it's Scooby-Doo, which lasts for 100 years. Other than that show, but your
That
show
was the one I missed.
Yeah. But your show's going to end, and if you really want to do this for a living, you go on to the next thing. You're back to square one when the show ends. It's interesting.
In our business, it's like a video game. It's always one day game over.
Yeah.
Well, it's Deborah Hill, who Fred knows, a late great movie producer who was one of my mentors in the business. She said to me, the day that you get your movie greenlit is the day that you're marketing your movie. And the day that you start principal production on the movie, you're pitching your next movie. And if you don't have your next movie in production by the time you're done there, you're not a movie producer.
Exactly.
So you have to be out there with the next production. You have to have that virtuous cycle, right? Of being in production, using the clout you have of being in production to get the next production going. And that's part of the hustle too. The hustle don't end.
Never ends.
Never ever end. Well, with that, guys, one last thing from each of you guys. Any parting words for our audience? The floor is yours. We'll start with Albie.
I think it's passion. It's, I really trust people's guts, people's passion, and people's storytelling of their own story. And why are you connected to this? Why are you doing this? If it's mercenary, this is a high concept idea. I mean, I'll give Fred some props. A lot of people come in with hype. This is a good idea. It's high. It is a good idea, but you don't have any connection to it at all. You don't know anything about animals. You hate dogs, and you're pitching me a dog story. So passion about your idea, authenticity about your connection to the idea, and the ability to keep going through the rejection, which is fierce, and not expecting it, because that's flop sweat, but not being deterred by it, knowing that you're going in there and saying, this is a great idea. I just did a great pitch. I did my best. I did it joyously. That's my mantra. And you know what? You didn't connect to it. That's fine. I'll sell you my next show.
Gotcha. And Fred, great stuff, Albie.
Did you read today? Did you write today? Did you draw today? If you didn't do those things, don't bother coming in tomorrow. Because the people who believe they deserve it because they exist are not all that interesting to any of us. It's the people who can't stop. It's the people who have to be doing the work. Again, Butch, I use you even when you're not on the Zoom. I use you as an example. I used it to somebody about an hour and a half ago, that you are constantly creating. You have, whenever I say to you, so what do you got? You open your drawer and there are about 300 things in the drawer. And one of them was done yesterday. One of them was done a year ago. One of them was done 5 years ago. You read today, you write today, you draw today. That is the mark of somebody who's not going to be stopped. And you can feel that when you're dealing with people, the people who have to do what they want to do. They're driven to do it inside. And again, I look at us all, we've been together on and off for many years. And I look at Albie, all I do is I see the 18-year-old Albie that I met, and the guy who has to be doing it. The guy who made up his own major in college in the most backwards, stiff college, and went in and argued with passion for the major that he wanted to create. And, here he is 50 years later, living that major. He's actually doing the thing that he pitched to his university all those years ago that they didn't want to hear about. And you're exactly the same way. We look at your wall right behind you, and it's a person who can't stop, right? Because he has things he wants to say, things he wants to express, things he wants to share with the world. And I'll tell you, on my part, I just consider myself lucky enough to be a fan. And I can be excited about Butch or working with Albie the way I was excited when I heard the Beatles when I was 12 years old, which changed my life and changed my direction because of your passion and your excitement.
Well, that's so kind, Fred. And guys, listen, I can't thank you enough for being on the show today. And thank you for everything you said. And I love you guys. I really do. You're like my family, even though I don't see you guys as much as I'd like to. I know Albie kicks me out all the time when I come over, but other than that.
But at least you come over.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, guys, listen, honestly, I would never been able to achieve what I achieved without you guys. So thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Trying to say was
and
back
thank you
at you.
for us.
Love you, man.
Yep.
Take care.
Love you.
Yeah.
There you go. So I will talk to you guys soon. And thanks to all these young people watching. I can't wait to meet you guys. And hopefully we can all work together like I work with these guys someday.
Fabulous.
All right, guys. Love you. Man, such a great interview. I am so blessed and grateful to both those guys. Like we talked about in the interview, it's so important to have relationships and resources in your career. It's not just about the idea. You heard what they said. It's not just about the idea. It's about the person. Sometimes the idea doesn't even matter, and that's what blew my mind. And it's true. I think the same way now. It's like sometimes it's not about the idea. It's about the person and their belief in the idea. It's like, who's making this? If this person's making this, I know it'll be great. It doesn't even really matter what the idea is. Now, if the idea is great, that helps that much more. But it's about the person, about the relationships that you make in your career. So I really want you guys to make the best relationships you can. Get out there, be brave, be bold, be excited, and be the one who believes in your idea, because other people will believe in it too. All right, so at the end of TOONA, I always do a little drawing based on what the guest wants. So I figured what better thing to draw today than a picture from the Fairly Odd Parents. Let's draw one of my favorite characters from Fairly Odd Parents, Timmy Turner. Mr. Cameraman,
yes.
Would you magically lift the camera and bring it over here to show the people what I'm going to draw?
The audience can't see it, but I'm floating it with my mind.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. Wow, we need to put you on TV. We can make money. Okay, here we go. Let's do a little Timmy Turner here. Ready? All right. Are you focused on your job or just the camera lens?
I'm focused on levitating the camera.
That's right. Please don't lose focus. Lives are at stake.
How'd you come up with the design for Timmy Turner?
Through many years of perfecting. It's like, I was working at Hanna-Barbera at the time, and I've been drawing a certain way. I'd been drawing like the Hanna-Barbera way, the Fred Flintstone way, the Yogi Bear way, and all that stuff. And I wanted to do something. I wanted to design characters like I'd never designed them before. And I just started playing with stuff, and Timmy Turner popped out of my pencil. It was wild. Timmy Turner. And I'll sign it there. All right, there we go. Whammo, Timmy Turner, the character that started it all. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And again, don't forget to get my book, Mad Hustle. Check it out. Click the link down below. Fred and Albie, I can't thank you guys enough. You guys mean the world to me. It's great to have friends like you. And I'm so glad that we're in each other's lives. And I hope all of you get to have mentors out there in your lives the way I had in mine. So, all right. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. And don't forget, art gives you power. Use it wisely. Hey Heart fans, subscribe here to keep up with me, Danny, Timmy, Dudley, Bunsen. Click here to check out my other YouTube channel, the NOOG Network. Click over here to watch my most recent video, and here to start a playlist related to this video. Whoa, check out that awesome fan art. To be featured here, use hashtag HeartFanArt and tag me. I'm on every social media platform known to man. Cartoon Butch out. Pencil drop.